Welcome to Matrix Live Season 2, Episode 2. Coming to you live from where are we, Emily?
We are in our new, completely empty, new offices.
Indeed. A bit echoey, really.
Yeah, a bit, sorry.
I guess by the time the public actually see this, we should be able to announce the situation on long-term funding. We were hoping to be able to do it this week, but the guys who are funding us have asked us to hold fire until middle of next week. So watch this space for details there. But we got access to the new office.
Shall we give a tour?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's show you the office. Over to you, Emily. Who lives in an office like this?
In the offices, so we have Matthew sitting up there, and then
No beanbags yet.
No beanbags yet. Small windows, very high ceiling on this side, and then the door, crazy concrete wall, and I'm going to hit the pillar. No, it's fine.
Yeah, if you manage to fall over backwards doing this, I'm going to be impressed.
And then down there will be the beanbag place with the kitchen. In the corner, which will exist at some point, and our balcony for hopefully barbecues at some point.
Yeah. Barbecues, we're going to put a hot tub on it, some plants, possibly a swimming pool, I was thinking. It's a very big, as you can see, it's massive. We're getting some really weird looks from the people opposite to. Anyway, basically this is hopefully going to be our brave new world for the foreseeable future, hopefully. So, yay. Although we've got to actually put desks and things in it. Apparently people like having desks.
Potentially a meeting room as well.
Yeah, and something like that. Anyway, it's not massive, but it will be nice to have our own place at last.
Indeed.
Patreon
side. So the donations are on the rise again. So thank you very much everyone for continuing supporting us, because even if New Vector has funding, well, we really want to keep matrix.org donations going and ensure that Matrix is actually completely independent, which is why we're starting working again on setting up the foundation itself. Yeah,
I guess in an ideal world we're hoping to get the non-profit matrix.org foundation set up in the very near future. I think whether we get it done by next week is probably might be pushing it, but we'll see how much bandwidth there is to try to work out the correct legal structure such that it has suitable independence and protects the standard on behalf of the community, both from evil Matthew and evil Amandine of the future, or anybody else who might want to go and pervert Matrix for their own nefarious purposes. So we'll keep folks updated, obviously, on that. Can we go and sit down again? We'll put this on a thing. Let's just go and sit down. We're going to sit down. Except without beanbags. Oh, this is going to be fun. There we go. So, shall I talk about Synapse?
Yeah, go ahead with the backend.
So it's a bit of a boring sync in some ways because most of this week has been completely destroyed by operational problems on the matrix.org home server, which I'm sure most people will have noticed. It all started to go wrong on Monday or so when Freenode started to go really weird. Basically, we were seeing huge numbers of joins and parts coming in, and they were also taking a very long time to propagate. Ironically, the messages themselves were okay from Freenode, and all the traffic to Freenode was fine, but if somebody joined the channel on the Freenode side, it would take about half an hour, 4 hours, for the join event to propagate to Matrix, during which time they couldn't speak on the Matrix side of the bridge. So very flaky, looked horrible, and meanwhile the whole thing was feeling a bit slow and sluggish. We basically ended up burning about 3 days across most of the team trying to work out what the hell was going wrong. And like all of these things, it's a combination of various unfortunate problems. First of all, the traffic levels this week were the highest we've ever seen, by about 10%. This was in part due to Slack being down at points. It was also probably due to it being the first full working week after Christmas. What else went wrong? Really where to start. Now, we had Meltdown Intel CPU attack mitigations landing in the ISP on the host hardware, which we run on top of, which obviously caused everything a little bit of disruption that might have started to caused some instability because of a whole bunch of 10-minute downtime chunks as various machines got rebooted. Also, the risk that performance on the meltdown patch might have got a lot worse and made things a lot more problematic, but we don't know how much that actually is. Everything else was breaking at the same time, so it's kind of hard to see what the impact is. Then we discovered that view.matrix.org was DOSing us quite aggressively with /messages API. Then we, God, what else? There's at least 2 other things which have gone horribly wrong on this. Then there was this lovely person who kept redacting every single thing they said in Matrix HQ, including their join and pass events, which turns out to expose a potential bug on the Android clients, which caused them all to do a thundering herd, which then takes out the server, and combined with everything else bad that was going on, that would lose us a whole chunk of downtime. Huge amounts of investigation on the Freenode bridge as to where all of these joins and parts had come from in the first place. Ironically, the Freenode bridge's logging was now down because that in its own right was a performance problem, so we were running somewhat dark on that. And obviously this all came after putting a self-congratulatory tweet out saying that we'd had a full month of no operational problems on Freenode at all, and literally within 12 hours the entire thing entirely collapses. Oh God, what else? And basically...
The bottom of the problem.
Well, no, don't steal my thunder on the punchline. The good news is, well, basically the core reason that things were going wrong is that the matrix.org master Synapse process had run out of CPU, full stop, due to a combination of all of those things in some capacity. And by doing some kind of incremental hacks to try to reduce the load on it a bit, it was enough to just about kind of struggle on. We did improve the monitoring a lot, so we now have much, much better metrics on how far behind things are running and how saturated the twisted reactor is, etc. But the actual root cause turns out to be yet another simultaneous thing that had gone wrong alongside all the others, which was a Matter Bridge deployment run by one of the cryptocurrency communities as a way of bridging Slack and Rocket Chat and a bunch of other things into their matrix rooms, which was trying to call /login every second or so, which irritatingly was sufficiently infrequent that it didn't register on the stats. And, God, what else? It wasn't using any DB, so it wasn't showing up on the database usage. It was showing up on the CPU graph, but there are so many high CPU requests flying around that it literally got blended into the background. But when you actually go and narrow it down, it turned out that on average it was chewing about 20% CPU on the Synapse master, calculating bcrypt hashes, repeatedly logging this wretched bridge back in. And ironically, that was a super quick fix that Eric deployed on Wednesday evening. And all it was to shift the bcrypt operations onto a background thread, at which point it no longer blocks the main reactor doing stupid crypto, and everything went back to normal. So very long story short, everything broke. We found an embarrassing performance bug on login, which is now fixed. Meanwhile, we've got much better monitoring, but even better, there was an epiphany from Eric and Rich VDH on how to improve performance when we send events, and that includes the joins which we were receiving from Freenode. And basically the idea is to, currently that's all happens on the Synapse master, we're going to split out a separate worker process which goes and calculates all of the sending stuff that it needs to do, but doesn't write anything to the database at all. But it basically does everything else required, and we can shard those and have multiple sender workers, just like we have multiple send workers today. And having calculated the database operation that actually needs to hit the disk in order to send the thing, that then gets passed over to the main Synapse worker, which continues to be the single writer to the database. And in some ways, it's the platonic ideal of the Synapse technical architecture. It's not as sexy as Dendrite in that we still have this god almighty single point of failure and bottleneck on the Synapse master, but at that point, basically anything that can be split out pretty much has been split out from the Synapse master. And it should give us enough headroom to actually finish Dendrite, rather than spending the next however many weeks desperately hunting fires. And that is what Eric is working on as we speak, I hope.
I hope no one fell asleep on that.
As if,
but at
as
least
if. I'm sure everybody. I needed to share.
Yeah, I know.
I needed to offload the pain of this nightmarish week. Either way, sorry if you got caught in the Freenode cluster that emerged off the back of this, and sorry if everything's been a bit sluggish, but it was a perfect storm. We're out the other side, touch wood, and everything seems to be all right. Meanwhile, Dendrite, absolutely nothing has happened because everybody's been panicking fixing this mess. We're going to continue fixing this mess to make damn sure there isn't a repeat performance, and then hopefully use the time that buys us to go back onto making Dendrite. Over to you, Amandine.
Cool. Let's go back to Riot Web, where basically there have been a lot of PR maintenance, and Dave, I believe, has been plugging away on this, as well as the end-to-end migration from local storage to indexeddb, which is almost ready to go.
And that fixes a whole class of end-to-end bugs at last, I think.
And the end-to-end backup progress has been delayed by all the Synapse hell, given it's meant to be Matthew working on it.
Yeah, yeah, that's a euphemism.
Put on his ops.
Yeah, I've been doing ops rather than end-to-end, which is just annoying in the extreme. We also actually, we can talk about that at the end, but carry on.
And on the mobile side of things, 068 was pushed on iOS to improve the push problems. So let us know if you still, after upgrading, you still have push problems.
Yeah.
Rate shake and tell us.
Well, specifically missing push. So basically what this does is where you would have missed a push before, it now sends a generic push notification up saying you received a message in this room, but we don't know anything about it because we couldn't sync because of whatever the fundamental problem is here. But if you're seeing missed push, we need to know about it immediately. So please yell. However, ugly push we know about, and it's currently a feature, but obviously we'll try to fix that too.
Yep. Well, on both platforms, the communities are done and should be out relatively soon. Just need to release them actually properly. We even have all the flair on Android. So yeah, that's coming up soon. What about widgets?
Yeah, so on widgets, Rek has been continuing his widget dreams, and the long-awaited stickers are on the horizon, which is looking kind of exciting. I think that's basically it on... Oh, there's also been still more spec work, which I still haven't managed to make much progress on there. And the final thing is just mentioning that we've been doing some general planning stuff over the last 2 days to trying to work out on the Riot and the scaler, the widget, the integration side of things, where things are going to go from here. Because obviously it is a new beginning, new season, new office, hopefully new money, and I know it's kind of exciting to work out what we're actually going to be doing in 2018. So watch this space. We might even have a roadmap of sorts, which people have been asking for well, the last 3 years. Yep. And it's kind of exciting.
Yeah, it is. So watch this space.
Are we missing anything?
I don't think so. It's been quite a blur this week, but I think we've gone through everything. Cool.
Okay, well, thank you again for supporting us, people who are watching this when it got recorded. And, oh yeah, something I was thinking of is once the funding is confirmed and public, we should, I reckon that we should just push these out without the week delay. Well, probably, actually, we should probably make them public. Something for us to debate about. If you feel very strongly one way or another about making Matrix Live live available to everybody, we could actually do it live. That'd be exciting.
What about the 5 missed starts, false starts?
What 5 missed starts? Impossible. We never have outtakes. This is all recorded without any edits, without any re-recordings ever.
Okay, without any edits, yes.
Anyway, then let us know if you're particularly attached to getting privilege and access to Matrix Live first, or whether you think that we should turn it into just a plain old publicly available video blog. Anyway, have a wonderful weekend. Bye-bye.
Have a good weekend. Bye.